So this video is going to cover what you're going to do for the groundwater module. And so this week we'll look at groundwater, and although not as dramatic usually as some of the other hazards we covered, certainly no less important. Out here in the Southwest, groundwater is something we rely on for our existence for sure, so that in and of itself makes it important. Certainly we want to look at not only amount of groundwater available, but contamination levels and things like that. We also have some issues related to removing lots of groundwater. Sometimes the surface of the earth sinks down a little bit, called subsidence. And so we have that a little bit in Arizona. We also have something called earth fissures that are fractures or cracks in the surface because of unequal settling as we pull lots of water out of the ground. And certainly we have some of those here in Arizona. Probably the most dramatic hazard associated with groundwater is something called sinkholes. And this is usually due to a collapse feature. Although we don't really have those here in Arizona, at least down in the valley here, they're much more common in places like Florida, where the rock limestone is at or near the surface. So I know it's been a while, but limestone is a sedimentary rock. It's composed of calcium carbonate, and over long periods of time, as groundwater moves through that rock, it can dissolve it. And a lot of times cave systems develop, and of course over time those cave systems can collapse, especially if they're near the surface and we build on top of that. And so we get these collapse features called sinkholes, and they can be fairly dramatic. So we can look into a little of that too. But for our lecture quiz, that's going to be over all those things we just kind of talked about. And then there are two videos, so I just broke it up into two parts to make it a little more manageable, not the 5 parts of the flooding video. Sorry about that. All right, and then there's a USGS article about groundwater depletion, so you can see a theme here. So certainly that's something that's concerning at this point in our history, so we can look at that for the article. This video is also pretty timely, although the quality unfortunately is not very good. It's the only clip I could find of this, so it's a segment from a 60 Minutes, and unfortunately it's a copy of a copy, but it really kind of takes home the point of groundwater and how we need to manage it. And so this was done back in about 2015, and it focused on California. And certainly they were experiencing a pretty severe drought, and a lot of their reservoirs were being depleted, so they're going to the groundwater to supplement that. And so it talks about the issues with that. And then of course in like 2017-18, California got a lot of extra water, rainfall, a lot of snowfall. And so it filled up the reservoirs, and they were like, yay, no more drought and everything's wonderful. Well, unfortunately, it's come back. And so here in 2021, if you've been following some of the news, you'll see that the California reservoirs are also depleted almost back to their 2015 levels. And so, of course, they have to go back into pulling groundwater. So that in and of itself is a problem. So a very timely video. Even though it's 6 years old, it's come back to haunt California and potentially Arizona, because we know that Lake Mead, Lake Powell, waters that we rely on are dropping fairly quickly, and that impacts Arizona. So you can take a look at that. And then for this homework assignment, it's just a handout, except I want you to do some drawing on it, where you draw some lines, which I know can be difficult for a Word doc or a PDF. So you could just print it out and draw on it and then take a picture of it and send it in, or scan it and send it in. But I did add an additional format, which was a PowerPoint. And so it comes up as a couple slides. And so on the slides of the PowerPoint, you can draw on using your PowerPoint tools, because there's a drawing tool, a little freeform tool. And so for this first question, it wants you to draw where the level of the water table is based on this information, and tell me which way the water's flowing. So you could do that, and then there's just some questions that you can answer. But then this last question wants you to draw the contour intervals of the groundwater table. So these dots represent wells, and the numbers represent the water level, so above sea level. And so we talk about doing contour intervals, and we did topographic maps way back when. This is the same process. So you want to draw some contour lines using the information here for the well data. And then based on that, and stuff of course you've learned in lecture, you'll be able to figure out the direction the water's flowing, and then we could draw a line to indicate that. So hopefully the PowerPoint format is a solution for some of you. But if you have other issues and you're struggling with the homework in some way, shape, or form, and I can help you, by all means, you can contact me. And of course, that applies to everything else in this chapter or this module. So, and then there'll also be a short little video that goes over the lab, and in the lab we'll also be doing some groundwater stuff. All right, good luck.